So thanks everyone for joining us. This is the 12th episode of what was formerly Project Pitch Player's Perspective, which I like because it's got alliteration, but also doesn't make a great deal of sense if you don't know what the space was about to start with. So I've made it more simple, and it's now, what's your game? Because that is the question that we'll be mainly answering today. I tend to like to focus around the gameplay, and we touch on NFTs and tokens, but I'm more in for the games. The NFTs and tokens are interesting, but we won't get lost in how all your tokenomics is going to solve world hunger. That's kind of not what the space is about. The idea is that you'll be able to come up with a project, you'll give a pitch, you'll share kind of what you're about with the audience and us as a group of gamers, and the audience between our questions will help you by giving you feedback on your question on your project. Make sure that you've got your ideas worked out. Sometimes it'll be a new idea, sometimes it'll just be re-articulating what you've already decided, but in a way that makes sense for the audience. Also try and help make sure people are making conscious decisions and no one's getting swept up in just following Twitter trends. When I started the space 12 weeks ago, I always envisioned me having to lay the smackdown on people because they were saying silly stuff that was just reflecting something they might have seen on Twitter. But so far, the projects have been really good quality and they've all said really sensible stuff. And it's kind of, so I'm not as hard hitting as maybe as I felt I was going to be, because they all answer the questions right. So if any of you want to answer a question wrong, just so I can pretend to be hard hitting, that would be ideal. I'm the host for the hour and a half. I'm Gaspode. Love playing games. I run a YouTube channel which introduces users to new games via 60-second intro videos, as well as slightly longer reviews. I also play live games on YouTube and Twitch, and am the official Web3 live streamer for Exceed Me, which is a platform that runs tournaments, gives grants for tournaments, as well as having their own kind of, what's the word for it? So they have Web 2 games as well as for tournaments, and if you win, you get tokens within their ecosystem. So they've got a whole kind of thing building out, and I'm the Web3 streamer over there. So you can catch me either on my Twitch or on the Exceed Me Twitch. As we go through, I'll be pinning stuff to the top around all the different projects. So anyone in the audience, if you like what you're hearing, make sure to check out the pins so you can find them and follow them. If you have anything you want to pin, feel free to pin away. Obviously, if it's wild, I'll just delete it and then shake my finger at you. If anyone in the audience wants any questions, you can either request to speak and come up, or in the bottom right hand corner, you see that bubble where you can put GIFs. We do a little gaming from Matt Defies already. So you can go in there and add your questions if you're not wanting to come up and speak. As I mentioned, it will be recorded and I will be posting it to YouTube with timestamps. So remember, it's been recorded, so don't say anything stupid. Well, you can say something stupid, but it will be recorded. So just remember that. I sometimes get carried away talking about games and forget all the Twitter stuff I'm meant to do, like share, retweet, follow, and all that. So just assume that you guys should be doing that, and maybe I'll remember to tell people to do it. But we'll just jump into some updates from some of the games that we've had on previously. I'm not going to do a huge amount because, again, we have, I'm not sure if everyone else has noticed this, but there kind of seems to be spurts of things happening with games. So last week was pretty busy. This week, the only main thing I've kind of seen that's come out is a project called Cyber Rogues. That was one of our first ever guests, and then went really quiet. They were doing loads of Twitter spaces and then went into stealth build mode. They have just done their mint this week, I believe it was, and they sold out. So they minted at 200 and it sold out really, really quickly. So I'll just put that to the top. So they came in as one of our first projects, and was really excited for them to actually be in the minting phase. So hopefully now that they've minted, we'll see them coming back into the spaces as well. The only other update, he's not on stage anymore. I believe Golden has just pushed out a new version of Got Hands, and they were one of our, I think you were the second episode, maybe, Golden. So I'm sure you pinned out a new one, but I can't find it on your Twitter. So do let me know if maybe I'm talking nonsense. And then the only other update to mention is that vRumble, who we had up last week. God, the weeks are flying over. I think it was last week. They are doing a come play with us, come see what we're doing walkthrough. I think it's an hour after this space, so that's worth going to have a look as well, because I think they're doing some really interesting stuff around kind of interoperability and chain work. And then the only kind of last piece to pin with that is remember that if you are interested in gaming spaces, you love listening to people talk about gaming spaces, you love talking about it, that Anna has, I can't find it, has created a calendar which has all the different gaming spaces on it, and you can set your calendar, set your dog walks around that, so you can always be listening to people talking Web3 gaming. So I've now pinned that to the top. Is there anyone who would like to go first? I don't really have an order of how I've planned to go through you. So we have either Blockstars or SkateX, and then I'll try and hunt down star heroes. Any preference who wants to go first?
I nominate Craig.
Okay, there we are. Nomination accepted.
Nomination accepted. Okay, since we've been a part of this, right? Quick version. My name's Craig. I'm the head of community for Blockstars. What we're making is a music management simulation game. There are sports management games and all kinds of other ones. We're making a music one because we like the broad appeal that has. The goal in our game is for you to be the best band manager, like managing successful bands and turning a profit, just like you would if you were in the industry. And how do you do that? We have a basic gameplay loop already available right now where you take a solo block star who's on their own, and the loops basically earn roll is the goal. So you send them to practice, that makes them better at what they do. You send them to busk, they earn roll, which is just our gameplay currency. I'm going to skip the tokenomics. And then what do you do with that roll? You reinvest it into those block stars so they get better and make more. And it's just a simple improve your token, make some game cash loop. It's already possible to get things going in a positive direction there where you can earn more than you spend if you select the tokens the right way and do your smart management. Where we're going next on the how to play is version 1, which is bands, and we're developing this part of it right now actively, where again you're trying to earn roll, but the loop is you form a band, you send the band to cut a song in this music studio, you release that song to the record charts for the genre of it, and you earn roll. Again, you're a good manager. What's a band manager want? Money. That's the performer might want to be a performer, but the manager, the goal in the game is that you're earning and succeeding, which allows you to manage more bands or get record labels or things like that in the future. At that bands level, we're calling that version 1. That's when we'll be releasing the full game, so to speak, and then everything else would be like an expansion. If you think of the meta of how games are developed and released, at that point, you're balancing the music skills of your band members, their songwriting skills, their promotional skills, their performance skills, and their actual personalities. And like any good sim game, that means the complexity scales across a wide range of interesting decisions. So if a band isn't performing as well as you want, do you invest in making them better performers, or do you look into the personalities and find out if they need, a new bass player? So I'm trying to respect what you said and keep this really high level since we've been a part of, you and Anna go back. But that in a nutshell is Blockstars and where we're at and where we're headed as a game. Is just making it really fun to do the simulation of being a band manager and hopefully succeed.
And I have been giving it a go. Anna sent me Mikey McCatface, who was my singer. He didn't have very good vocal skills. I was focusing mainly on his social media stats because I feel that he could get away with being a bad singer if he was good at promotions. I don't know if that would have worked out, but that was kind of the direction I was pushing him in. I enjoyed doing it, and I enjoyed throwing in a little role play every time I did something with him. I was tweeting out, pretending as if he was a real little person. I didn't get quite as deep as having a full pad because I didn't have. I only had the one, but yeah, it was an exciting kind of thing. One question I was thinking of is: are all the block stars already in existence? How do new block stars turn up? Is that kind of tied in with finding new talent or what?
So way back in February, we minted 10,000 block stars on a buy one get one, like a BOGO sale. So at one Solana, you get 2 block stars. And if someone's new and wants to get in, other than knowing Anna and having her loan you a token, the main way in is to go to Magic Eden and acquire them off the secondary market. And right now they're hovering at about 0.5 Solana. We're looking like after we get to version 1, and that's very important to us, as we just focus on that as a development team for the game. We're looking at, what would rentals look like? What would, not necessarily scholarship, but those ideas of I don't have a Blockstar, I can't get one, or the market's beyond me. How can I play? So I think we'll take some, expected approaches to that in the long term. But near term, if you wanted one right now, it'd be know a friend that's got one or get to Magic Eden. And I do want to say your idea on social media is exactly, I think of the game as interesting decisions. And you're like, this person's not a great singer, but if I make them Instagram famous, suddenly who cares if this be like that girl that did Friday over a decade ago or whatever. It was terrible, but the social media thing made it successful for her.
Yeah, and the part I enjoyed the most about it is obviously there's loads of people on Twitter who are always posting the pictures of their coffee. I'm just doing Web3 stuff. Here's my coffee. I'm in a coffee shop. And I like the fact that one of the locations was a coffee shop, because that's entirely who I was kind of modeling my guy after. Definitely tagging one of the other guys I know who's always putting coffee posts up. With it, you kind of mentioned that it's kind of themed around other sims. How much is kind of, I'm trying to think of so it's a lot of kind of management ones bits, and I'm trying to bring out the bits that I know your community have got really behind making tools which aren't team built.
That's absolutely true. Do you want me to kind of talk about them, or just I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
I realize I didn't phrase that as a question. Could you tell us more about how I think, because I'm really impressed that you've left room in the game for the community to fill it with their own knowledge and kind of tackle the problem how they'd want to.
Yeah, okay, I'm happy to. So to do that, I'm going to have to hype some friends that I don't know if they're here today because they have day jobs too, but on Twitter they go by the number 2 fun devs. They're 2 fungible developers. They put together, the first tool they put together was called the Oracle, and it's a way to they have our data, like the public data that's on the chain, and they arranged it so if you're looking on a Magic Eden at a token and thinking, okay, Magic Eden shows me the cosmetic stuff, but that doesn't tell me if they're good at singing or social media. You can buy it and look at it in our game itself, of course, but there's a buy it part. So they put the Oracle together, which breaks it down, shows the stats, shows this is their current vocal skill, this is their potential vocal skill, this is the current social media, this is the potential, to use your example, and give you a better sense of what you're buying. And then to your point, like what strategy would you employ? How would you think your way into it? Another one they put together is the band maker, because we did share our draft of what bands inside of each genre would look like. And so you can go in and go, I have a tuba player, and it'll boom, here's all the bands that can use a tuba player. And then you can narrow from there and go, I have a tuba player and a saxophone player, and narrow it down to what bands can you think of doing when we release the bands feature. And I consider that, like, if someone says, is your community healthy? When the community's making tools that the dev team, we could stop and do that, but eventually we'll never get to the game. That for me I'm really proud of them and the community, that that's how the things are going. Is they're like, we see a need, we can do it. We don't need to wait for the Blockstars team. They can focus on making the core game. And it's a good sign of health. It's a nice sign of community bond that we're all connected, and it's a useful tool. I got to admit, I have over 100 Blockstars, and I'm plotting bands and trying different things, and I use their tools to understand what I've got. So it's seriously a great tool, and I'm really excited that they're spending that time with us to the point that we've sponsored them.
I think it's great, because I think it adds to actually getting your community involved. Someone was talking about an example of it where it's kind of bonding them together to solve a problem because you've not held the hand through everything. And I think that is a good sign for kind of how the community's working together. I did just want to point out that I've obviously spent way too much time with Anna in Twitter Spaces, as we've both just pinned exactly the same tweet to the top from them. I'll remove mine. They haven't done many tweets. I was really struggling. I was hoping to find one with the actual oracle on, but I couldn't find one. And this is where I feel I definitely have listened to Anna too much. Did you mention not going to make it? If not, I will poke you about not going to make it to mention that.
Sure. It's kind of another sign of how we relate with our community. It's a feature we released about a month ago. So like I said, there was 10,000 tokens released. As our players began to better understand the game we were making, they literally came to us with feedback that some of these tokens, aren't going to make it. We have them. They look cool, but we don't really want to develop them as musicians because we think there's better plays to be made, which is the heart of the game. What's the best play? And so not going to make it was something we made to answer that, where in the scope of one single transaction on Solana, and I think that's very important because our tech team really put something together here. You fire a Blockstar, you take their experience and potentially the musical instrument they play or their vocals, and apply that to another Blockstar who has, like you want them skills to go up on, and you get an IOU token in the form of a tour crate, and you can find those in Magic Eden too, that will give you a Blockstar in a future mint. And the only cost is to pay about 6 months of their game salary in that role. So it's like, I really like this feature because it gave value to underperforming tokens that the players didn't want to use in the game, where they could go, oh, but I'll send this keyboard player's skills to my other keyboard player and make them better. And when we do another mint in the future, you're in. There's no whitelist. There's no paying in Solana. You've got the IOU crate. When you open it, it pulls out of that. I want to say, hey, Rocker Nation, just shouting out to you. I see you in the audience. Haven't seen you in a while, so good to see you. So that's kind of the nutshell on NGMI, and it really was something where we didn't stop our roadmap, but we pushed this into the roadmap because of the community feedback and our desire to really, work with them on the development of the game and go, is this, does this work? Is this a good game? Are you seeing this as a management opportunity? And it is, when you think of the fiction, what if you find out your social media low-end singer really isn't going to do well? You can fire them, take them out of the game. So that's our most recent one. As far as big feature, I don't know if you've heard this one, but we also released Blockstar naming, again, because the community wanted it. So like if the token I'm using as my profile picture here on Twitter, that's Sid. Sid's Blockstar number 28. Up until last week, all you could see is Blockstar 28. Sid was the name in my mind, in my my narrative. We released naming where you can now name your Blockstars. So I actually have that one named as Sid when you look it up. And that was, again, something the community wanted, where they're like, this fiction works for us.
I think that's really good because people love naming stuff, and I'm sure that everyone who's kind of actively involved in playing the game will have a full backstory around their band, around every member. Maybe not the ones that you then send off to the incinerator, because it's a bit harder to kill a pet when you've named it. But no, I think that's really good way of kind of adding more into it without adding more, because obviously you'd have to do something to add the naming, but it can add so much more depth to the game without you as a developer having to add loads of mechanical steps.
Absolutely. And it's really fun. You can project that it's probably going to happen in bands right away because now we have the tech done. And like, it's not like flushing your goldfish when you fire someone. Because I used to be in bands as a younger person. You kick someone out of the band, they either turn into your roadie, they form another band, or you see them at shows. Like if you do it the right way with class, they get why you found someone else to take their role. Like when I left my band, I actually found my own replacement. So like I see even that in the narrative of it's less emotional and more like, you're not cutting the mustard. You can help us set up and come to the show. It's kind of fun to think of it. I've honestly thought about starting a blog in the narrative of my Blockstars and random management personality.
I think that would be amazing. I think people would really enjoy that, and I like the idea that they could have their own lives. You might be crap, but as long as you don't, like Anna's just straight up burning them, like she just no remorse. I've seen the memes that have been going around. Doesn't care at all. But yeah, I think it's nice, the idea that there's kind of like an extra step to it that even is just people getting into the imagination of it.
I think that's where games become magic.
Rocker, I haven't got your full name. Rocker Nation, you had your hand up, but it's gone down. Do you still have a question?
Well, just a comment. I've been talking to Craig off and on, the Blockstars people, for the last 6 months, and I don't think anybody's more thoughtful and doing, deep diving into their and exploring the potentials of, Web3 than Blockstars. So it's great to hear Craig's voice again. He's got a lot of great insight and wisdom on how to put this kind of stuff together. So it's really cool that they're still kicking ass on it.
Yeah, sorry, I couldn't get off mute. Yeah, no, I think that's good, and I agree that it's a good sign for the community. I think that that's part of what sometimes is missing when you jump into different projects is the kind of thing that's bonding people together. There's the, oh, we listen to the community, but then sometimes it's hard for people to then react with their games. I'm not saying they're not wanting to, but some games it's a lot harder to do that. Whereas the suggestions that have come through here sound like they already tie in with what you kind of envisage. They're just an extra bit on top rather than going wild and saying that I can't think of something wild to do with musicians because I think it would all actually work in game. So I'm not not going to think of an example which would be weird to put through. Do we have any questions from anyone on stage or in the audience? While I just power through a couple. So I've got another question or two, but I like to get people set up with questions so we don't sit waiting for the speaker role to actually happen. And also, hopefully, everyone can still hear me. My headset went flat, so I'm now just shouting at my phone while you guys are on speakerphone. So hopefully, that's working fine. While we wait to see if anyone else has any questions, you were saying that you see this as kind of version 1 where you are now. When will you know this is done? We've delivered. Let's see what the next stage is.
So that is the ability to take your band that you formed into the recording studio and cut a single and put that single on the charts and earn based on how it performs. That's where the game will also get competitive. Like if you and I are both working on the opera genre, like we're putting together operatic bands, which I know nobody thinks of them as bands, but if you and I were doing that, then the competition becomes us, who's charting up higher on the charts, and there's actually gameplay profit, like rewards for doing that. That'll be when we hit version 1. Like right now with the loop where it's practicing and busking and you can name your block stars and fire your block stars, we're at version 0.5. And once we hit version 1, that won't be that's where we'll start promoting, make more noise, reach out to the actual management simulation gameplay audience beyond the blockchain and try to, grow our audience because we'll have what feels like a complete game and game loop. And then at the same time, we will be, bringing in the ability to make albums instead of singles and the ability to own the record studio and the ability to own the record label and the ability to own, performance venues, whether it's the local blues bar or Wembley Stadium in the UK. So that's kind of like the post V1 future. We have a lot of ideas that we want to do that make really good sense with the fiction, and also we'll add. I always go back to this phrase of interesting decisions, because at that point, if like a year from now, when the game's more robust than V1 and it's V1.5 or V2 or whatever, the decision to be like, do I form great bands and train them up and sell them to players in the labels, or do I own the label and never do bands anymore, but rent out my label studios to bands? Like the number of choices you'll have as a game player will kind of go exponential. They'll explode because of that. Like, hey, I want to own a stadium. Well, you're probably not going to, you're going to manage the stadium now instead of a band, more than likely, but you'll work with all kinds of other bands in the player space. So that's like version 1 is just make a band, send it to the studio, cut a song, and put it on one of our 96 genre charts. But after version 1, we'll start going for those bigger ideas too.
I think some of those bigger ideas sound wild, like really good. And it does fit with what you're saying. It follows the same story, the same narrative. It may have made sense, but that's something that would be the next kind of step up. How are the charts going to work? This is going to sound like a daft question, but they're not actually making a single, are they? Like, there's not going to be listening to music.
No, AI-driven generative music is something our CEO Nico Viori is very passionate about. So we're looking at it kind of on a side quest, but not letting it get in the way of making the game. So it'll all be, in your mind that you cut a song on the reggae chart, and the studio version of that, or the single version of that competition, is how good of a musician are your band members, and then what are their songwriting skills, what are their studio based recording skills, like are they good at these things that'll enhance the song that's made. And then like I love that you brought up social media, and it was already apparent to you that could be important. Promotional skills will also of course help things chart. So it really will be a bunch of decisions where you tweak and you retweak until you find what you think is the best performance you can get out of that band in that genre. Is the combination of who are the musicians, how do they get along, how good are they as musicians, how good are they in this? Because some people aren't going to want to practice or don't do well in the studio at all, but they're great live. And all of this is what's really fun for me. Is I love music. I think most of us can say that. All of our game fiction fits the industry, right? There's some people that it's just murder to get the rest of the band to get them into the studio so they can cut an album and go out and do the thing that they like to do. Because that one person's like, I'm really here for writing songs and tour, and I hate the studio process. That will manifest in the game in a way because some block stars just aren't going to like it. But then they'll be great when you go out and perform those songs. And one day we would love the idea that when you cut a song in a studio or an album, that it's an actual token, and like maybe you write a great song and tokenize it, and then I buy that song and perform it. Like, because like Beyonce, she's peak of her game, all over one kind of music, and she has a team that writes with her. So like even that, again, the fiction. I could go on for hours on this because to me this is the neat stuff that makes me want to play the game.
I think it is the stuff it puts into your head that isn't actually mechanically in there. I think that's a great way of kind of getting your community invested, but then also because if you were trying to literally mechanically do all those bits you said, and it had something that was on screen, that would be a lot. But if you can put the idea into someone's head so that they think it, their imagination's always going to do it better than you could possibly do. But the reason I was a bit hesitant, because I was suddenly thinking it'd be wild if they were somehow making every single using AI in some way, and it was literally something you could listen to. But then I thought that's probably going a bit to get carried away.
That's stretch goal. We're hoping one day someone will make it and we can partner with them, like that AI-driven music.
Yeah, no, I think I like that. So it is, and with that, is the plan that there won't be anything from you as a studio of what is good to hit the different charts? It's going to be trial and error by users, and then sharing that knowledge the same way kind of the Oracle came around.
Yeah, I think so in a way, but I think like, and this is not spec'd out by the game design team or anything. It's all speculative. But I can imagine when we release studios that players can own instead of just going into them, there will be a set of studio-oriented skills that you can then develop as the manager of whoever your studio team is, and gear, like better sound equipment. And thinking in that, there was a soundboard at Studio City, I believe it was named, in Los Angeles, that the studio closed. It's reopened now under other owners, but it had closed, and Dave Grohl bought the board because it was this legendary thing made by someone in England that was not mass manufactured and not easily remade. And he was like, well, if the studio's closing, I want this. And he moved it up to his studio up in the Pacific Northwest. Like there's so many variables like that you can think into the future of the game that it's going to be a long time before we actually have to go, what should we do? And the community's like, we don't know either. I can't really imagine how that would happen.
No, that sounds good. We got a question from Golden.
I just wanted to say this sounds freaking like a genius. Every time you get in space, Craig, I'm sorry, but like I'm like sold, and I don't even play simulation type games, but I'm like literally sold by like the description you just made. I still wish you would have made a sports game, but man, I can sense that you played simulation games for years upon years upon years to be able to come up with this idea. It's truly going to be groundbreaking as it gets more exposure.
You're way too kind, but I'll drop some trivia that our CEO, Nico, He's been playing Football Manager for 30 years. It's a management sports. It exists out there. There's like, I think Madden has a management mode. Football Manager is like the iconic one because it's so old, and it's world football, not U.S. soccer. Or I'm sorry, not U.S. football, so soccer in my language. That's there, and that was like music. There was some music management games in the past. They were web driven. They were pretty small. That was kind of what got us the inspiration that this is something we could do with something we love, is add it to something else we love. So that's the heart of how we end up with music instead of sports, technically.
One more quick question. Have you thought about actually? I know I think Gaspard just asked you this, but have you thought about like partnering with like AI music generator or Boomy or something like that to actually have the to have them bring their AI music algorithm into the game so that it actually generates music?
Yeah, we even one of our community members is a high-end programmer, and that's all I'm going to say because like I'm not, so I don't really have a proper gauge on how talented he is, but he has a passion in that space. So we worked with him on doing some research, and for anyone that's familiar, the DALL-E AI image generator that kind of kicked off the frenzy that we're in, they did a jukebox program a couple years ago, and they kind of seem to have left it to the side for images. And to the best of our ability, we haven't found anything that generates music where you can kind of dictate the genre and then aspirationally actually have lyrics that are automatically generated and sung. Even if it's like Simlish, where it's blah, 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 that'd be cool. We can't, if you find anything, man, send it straight at me. We're really, like, that's a whole nother product entirely, which is why we're not trying to develop it ourselves right now. We're trying to get the game out. But if someone puts out a version that we can license, where we could literally cover those genres with those instruments and all that, that would be the coolest thing ever.
I'm on it. I got you.
No, that sounds really cool. Matt, you got a question?
Yeah, I do. So yeah, everything you guys said so far is it sounds really cool. I'm currently in Magic Eden, kind of like browsing to see which blocks I'm gonna pick up. But like I was wondering, let's say you find a band that fits really well together. Let's say like, you know, we're talking like a like a premium band, right? And then let's say they start putting out bangers, and they start hitting the charts consistently. Is there any way to where like someone could potentially just find like one of the best bands, or is there like do they decline over time, like their ability to put out like chart chart topping music?
So that's in development. So like I don't have the perfect answer, although I've kind of music management simulation games are also spreadsheet games. So I've actually tinkered with like the spreadsheet that the design team's working on for bands. And I think it's possible for someone to make a dominant band. I don't know about an unstoppable one, because there's always other ways to combine, the block stars themselves and up the ante on each other. And it's going to be pretty. Our lead coder, our CTO, is from EVE Online. If you look at that MMO, which is a spreadsheet MMO, it's going to take years to max people out. It's really an investment, in the strategy kind of game. And I can also see when we, have the charts live for people, it would be I'm going to actually go submit this as an idea for feedback to the team, because it's true. Certain genres peak and then ebb, right? Like certain types of music are popular for a while, whether it's a number of years or whatever, or certain, artists do a weird one-off song that in the middle of the summer, it's the perfect summer song and you never hear from them again. So I could see where when the charts are fully designed out and thought through, that could be something that we lay into it. It's a really undefined space for us right now, but absolutely, I think the goal is, of course, and like that's what I said, I'm using those tools that the two fun developers made on top of a spreadsheet, looking at my block stars and going, like, I recently discovered, oh, I don't have a trumpet player. I need a trumpet player, because of one of the bands I want to form is going to need a trumpet player. So then I'm watching the market, and like the only trumpet player on the market's 3 Solana right now, and I'm like, oh, I don't think he's quite good enough for 3. To me, that's great game feedback, where not only is it making me think about acquiring different talent, because I might dump some tokens and pick another, pick the trumpet up, or completely abandon that genre and do something else. So I think it's going to be, like, honestly, if you're listening, alpha for my strategy, I'm going to form a cumbia band. My maracas player is my PFP, so she has to have a band, and I get the feeling that everybody's going to be rock and roll, and something like Cumbia that very few people in the United States or the connected NFT world may even know about, means I'll have an opportunity to dominate a chart all by myself. And if I have to take it, like I'd rather be number one in Germany than number 98 on the charts in America, right? Like being good at something is awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for answering the question. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a really good question, actually, because you wouldn't want someone to solve it, but it sounds like you've definitely got that kind of in hand. My kind of final trickiest question, I would say, is there any idea of going to mobile? Only because I kept forgetting to come back because I'm very bad at remembering about timers. Where I thought being on mobile, having push notifications would help someone who's kind of forgetful. I think I did actually play it from my mobile from Kiwi browser most of the time. But yeah, is there any idea on mobile?
Yeah, that's a great question because we're a mobile first world almost at this point with the internet. And our answer is like this is a browser based game as we're developing it, so you have to play in a web browser, which means you can kind of get it to go on mobile, but we haven't optimized the settings to go, hey, you're on an iPhone or an Android, let's stretch the screen this way and make it look good. We're getting that playable game out as web first, which kind of means PC or Mac, physical computers instead of your phones. And then because this has been asked, it was almost one of the immediate questions from our community was, when mobile, when game is in a good state, because the minute you fork and develop for another platform, every time you make a change, you got to test it into environments, adapt to the different rules in each of these different environments. iPhone pushes out an update and it breaks your game. I've seen this happen on teams I've been on. You have to then go and update your game as fast as you can. Same thing for Android. So we're not touching mobile right now. But we haven't committed to like in 2023 or 2024 we will do Blockstars mobile. It's much more, can we get the game in this really stable state where it's performing, playing well on the native web browsers, and then what other platforms do we need to be on will be a viable question for us to develop against. That being said, like our core team, 2 out of our 3 founders and some of our core engineers worked at Rocket Games, which was a mobile gaming company that Nico was CEO of at that time, and that was a very successful game. So we know how to develop in mobile. We've done that. Each of us in our own way, but some of us together. So like doing it to Blockstars at some point is absolutely on the table. It's just a whether or not we get to yes now or later.
No, that sounds cool. I do get the when mobile, when game, when. You see it in every project you go into. And I do just love the when gifts as well. Any final questions for Blockstars from anyone in the audience? Anyone on stage? Anna, you got anything to say? Been surprisingly quiet.
I am. Well, Blockstars. Craig's doing such a good job that I don't even know what to say. I just get excited about everything that's going on, and I love the game naming feature, and I love how you totally lied and said I am killing my Blockstars, i.e. burning them. I think I've done one, and it was just to see what the process was like, so I could talk about it, and I was so sad. It was so sad for me.
I just done one murder, just to see what it's like. Yeah, okay.
It turns out murder's not for me.
Yeah.
I haven't done that at all. I actually fight with
Craig,
myself constantly over what my strategy is.
I'm gonna say this. You have a strategy, like you want to do a top chart 2-star band or something like that, because you've talked about it.
Yeah, I even named them already. They're 2 stars, no moon. They're never going to go to the moon on the charts because they're a 2-star band. But I wanted to like prove to myself and my community that that's playable and profitable. It may not be like, you're not Michael Jackson, but you are Billy Ocean, to reference 80s singers randomly.
You've just triggered one last thought in my head. I know I mentioned not going too deep into tokens and stuff, but the tokens make sense in this game. Like, it makes sense that they're there, and it makes sense why they're turning up. It's not a game where tokens have been shoehorned in to a genre that doesn't make sense. This makes a lot of sense.
And all I'll say on our tokenomics, since you're opening the door a little, is we have rock and roll coins, and we have had our tokenomics plan vetted. We're U.S. companies, so we went to the top U.S. law firm in crypto that's very familiar with NFTs as well as normal crypto stuff, and said, "Here's our plan. Are we setting ourselves up for trouble?" And we got their stamp of approval. We paid them to take the time to do the diligence and look, and make sure that we're on the right path.
No, that's really good, and I think it definitely is worth noting because it is more than just we got token. It's something that you've gone above and beyond again for kind of protection of the community. So I definitely think that is worth mentioning. But no, thanks, Blockstars. It's been very interesting. I hope you stay on stage to grill SkateX.
I actually am because I
Yeah.
bought one. I bought a skate, and I'm super excited. And I want to know about the 3Ds. I want them to repeat the whole 3Ds because when they were on our deep dive, they talked about the 3Ds, and they didn't tell me what they were.
I'll just do the twittering stuff. Thanks everyone who's joined us since we started. We're on to the 12th episode of what was previously the Project Pitch Player's Perspective. It's now called Watch Your Game, because I felt that is more obvious for what the space is actually about, because I ask, what's your game? And then people tell us about what their game is. I'm your host for the hour and a half. I do YouTube, Twitch, as well as streaming for a kind of a launch pad and a tournament kind of holder in Exceed Me. The idea of the space is that people come up, they tell us about their game, we ask them questions, and we have some good fun talking about different games. We focus mainly on the gameplay. We touch tokenomics and NFTs if it's interesting and special, but we won't go down a long accounting route about how your tokens work because I have a lot enough accounting at my Web2 job. Remember to follow all the people who you're interested in. Make sure to keep an eye on the stuff along the top, and we'll pin stuff. Me and Anna were so good being generous people pinning loads of other people's stuff that neither of us actually pinned one from Blockstars. And I've now pinned something for Blockstars up the top as well. There is then a new pin to the top that this week I hit 1,000 followers, and I'm currently doing a community giveaway. I didn't do any giveaways up to my 1,000 followers. Not saying that there's anything wrong with giveaways, but it's kind of a thing that I set for myself. And this giveaway is slightly different in that the winner will then pick a project that is mentioned in the comments, and I will buy $50 worth of that project for the winner and $50 of the project for myself, and we will join that community together rather than just kind of random stuff in the giveaway. So I'm excited to see what project I end up going with. So far, people have suggested loads of stuff I already own in. So I'm not against buying more stuff in the same projects, but it'll be interesting to see what the winner actually ends up picking. We've just heard from Blockstars. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Very interesting. If you love Sims, you love blocks, music makes more sense. Go check out Blockstars. But now we're going to hand over to SkateX. I'm not sure who's talking first, but SkateX.
We can just talk interchangeably, but thank you so much for having us on the show. It's always good to chat with some new folks and also to see some old friends. Shout out to some of our community members that always show up. What's up, Vix, Bob, Decker, Ilya, and excited to tell you all about what we're building, and maybe you'll get some juicy alpha out of me and Matt. Who knows?
Yeah, guys, thank you for having us, Gaspode. Thanks for inviting us. Obviously, a pleasure to share the stage with Blockstars. Love them very much and respect you guys for building what you're building. And it sounded like a lot of fun. And I'm definitely I'm still browsing on Magic Eden because I'm picky about my NFTs. But yeah, I'm still looking. So if I can start here, Brian, yeah, SkateX. SkateX is going to be a free to play extreme sports MMO video game, right? Obviously, by extreme sports, I mean skateboarding, right? But yeah, that's kind of like the elevator pitch. Obviously, there's a lot to the game, but I'll start with this. The game is essentially going to be, more of like a fantastical on the fantastical side, more than like a simulator. It's not gonna be like a skate, you know, that's already been done and that's perfected by EA. But we're gonna be more on the like the fantastical side, you know, doing things in skateboarding that are not necessarily, you know, um, possible in real life, right? So some of our NFTs are skateboards. They have like rockets, wings. They have like huge, massive wheels that probably not work in real life very well. But yeah, that's basically how we thought about the game. And then when it comes to give you guys a little bit of better of an idea, our lead game designer, he described the game of like a mixture of Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2, which was, obviously a huge skateboarding game for a lot of people. That's what we keep getting. Anytime we talk about SkateX, we get a lot of people saying, "Hey, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2, that's the game that I used to play growing up, and huge fan of it." And that's the case for our founders. And then on the other side of things, think about Genshin Impact. So like free to play, world exploring game where you can like go around and do different quests. Our game will be very much like that, and like as in like you can roam around. You can be in lobbies with other people, and then you can do complete quests and challenges to unlock and upgrade your board, right? So that's how kind of we think about the game. And also we do have a token grind, which is actually going to be an in-game utility token, where that will allow you to upgrade your boards. We will have other gear as well, so like we will have clothing, accessories, and that I guess also falls a little bit onto the partnerships that we want to do, both with other projects, games, and brands. But yeah, I do want to let Brian speak a little bit more about it, because Brian is our brand director and his vision is just incredible. So, Brian, take it away.
I mean, like everything you said is very correct and accurate. And no, I'm just excited because there's not really a game quite like what we're talking about building, and what we are building out there right now. I think that skate games have historically fallen into the habit of being sims, and they've been done extremely well, right? Like the physics, the gameplay, they've really brought what it is to skate like in real life into video games. And I think what gets me excited about the metaverse and what gets me excited about video games is all the things that I can't do in reality, if that makes any sense. And I go like, "Oh, well, yeah, like that's too real. Video games crack open a whole new world of opportunity, to do tricks that I can't physically do, and to have magic going on, or amazing graphics." And I come from falling in love with the old Final Fantasy RPGs, and bringing the whole fantastical element aesthetically, those wow moments. And that's what I really envision for our vision of how skating can be done in the metaverse. Also, we're building out a trick system that's card based, where you can actually collect tricks. There are things that you earn in the game via gameplay, and then we'll be able to enter into the marketplace. So there'll be a secondary marketplace of earnable tricks. And so then you kind of create this trick deck, where you can stack them and do combos, and there's strategy involved in how you combine all of it. And so it's trying to turn the traditional skate game on its head and start thinking of it differently. And it's funny because it's literally a skate deck, a new kind of skate deck. So it's exciting. And you know, building in Web3 is a new frontier, and there's a lot of challenges that are brought to the table when you're trying to build a full 3D metaverse game experience. Bringing in NFTs and working with the marketplaces. And I think what I get really excited by is just the opportunity for learning and for collaboration when partnering with other companies and bringing in their tech and engineering things from scratch. And this whole thing is an incredibly collaborative process as we're building and we're learning a lot along the way. So
No, I think it sounds really cool. I like the idea of not just building Tony Hawk, like not just doing a sim, because you just get smashed because people would just compare it instantly. I'm sure you guys are really good, but you probably wouldn't be Tony Hawk game straight out of the box, and people
I mean,
would just
they've been
be looking
building
for
those
that
games
straight
for
away.
over a decade, right?
Yeah, but people wouldn't think that. People are very, I don't know, but the most people I've met in the space get confused that the games that cost £50, I'll do dollars actually, $50 to make aren't the $50 million games that they've seen previously. I don't know why people get surprised about that at this point, but I definitely agree with the point of being able to do things that I can't do in real life. Like when I play games or when I do like Dungeons and Dragons role playing, I don't want to be a human because I'm a human in real life. Like if I want to do stuff that I couldn't just do in real life. Granted, for a skate game, that could be literally anything because I can't do any skateboarding. So any level would be kind of make believe skateboarding for me. Um,
Yeah, now that I've hit
when
my 30s, there's no more skating at IRL for me.
yeah, definitely. I'm 34 and I've definitely got old man knees at this point. Um, with the kind of you mentioned the quests and kind of the skating around in open world. Am I competing against other people? Is it kind of story mode and I'm collecting quests? How does that kind of all tie together for the gamer?
That is a great question. So, let me explain kind of the process of how we're going to be releasing things because I think that might uh, illuminate right the process. Our first core thing that we're focusing on is building fun gameplay, right? And so what we realized is that we had to get the core mechanics of the game in, which is having skate parks where you can do tricks, doing like downhill racing with obstacles, and building these almost like arcade-esque components that are going to be the core gameplay for how you actually play the game and how you compete. So those are our primary focus right now. There will also be a social component where you can like chat and hang out with your friends and just shoot the shit and practice. And then there's the market component where you can go and you can purchase gear and you'll be able to do upgrades. And we're also building a hub to be able to give utility to grind into the SFTs that we've been giving to create kind of an exchange market of different gear and components. So those are the things to anticipate in our MVP game. And then once we have that out in the world, we're looking to evolve that into kind of a neighborhoods based quest system. So we'll probably only have limited quests in the upfront, and then that'll expand. So we've talked about doing one that's kind of like maybe like a cyberpunk San Francisco, and then the other one could be like a jungle, and the other one could be outer space or in the sky, and all these become kind of different areas where you go, and there's different challenges involved, and you can move around by train or by other transport to get to those different neighborhoods in our world. And then eventually, as we build out those different neighborhoods with all those different quests and all those different kind of arcade based playable systems, then it will all combine into one giant metaverse kind of MMO space where you can move throughout. But we're trying to, eat our meal bite by bite instead of trying to eat it all at once, just so that we can make it sustainable. We have a relatively small team that's building this whole thing, so trying to make sure that we utilize our resources uh, as best as possible to be as efficient as possible. And learning along the way. Nobody has really built something like this, so it like I said earlier, it's been a huge learning experience. Also, eventually there will be leaderboards, and you will be able to compete against friends. And I would like for this to eventually become esports, streamable esports at some point. That's my goal for the whole thing. But I think that's a ways down the road, just because we have to actually get the core mechanics and the core loops of the game constructed to make this fun and to entice enough people into the ecosystem to want to play on an ongoing basis. So
I think that's an interesting point, and obviously I'm biased because I do stream, but I do like it when games are already kind of considering the streamability. And I don't think the answer always has to be yes, this could be streamed or this could have content made around it. But I like it that it's something that gets considered, so that it's not you don't leave it up to accident. You've kind of either decided, yeah, we think it can, or we'll support in that direction, or no, it can't, and maybe the content that our users create is more around guides and explanations and stuff. But I like the idea of esports, and I can kind of see how that would fit with the skate side. Matt?
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say I completely agree with you. I used to be like a content creator, and my background was like working with creators, more specifically Twitch streamers. So I do know that UGC is like a very important, and it is very important for us at SkateX, to where I have this one example. There used to be this because I come from like the CCG game, so like the card game, like Hearthstone, Magic, etc. And there used to be this game created by Valve, and it was supposed to be very big. It was kind of like the Dota card game, Artifact. And the reason that game failed was because, first of all, they didn't let people play, and that was a whole thing on its own. But the other thing was, it was a game that was like very hard to follow. So, for example, there was three different boards, and you could just see one at a time. So it just took for a viewer to just check their phone for like a few seconds, and then when you just would pan back to the screen, you would have lost track and you would have no idea what happened. So yeah, I think a lot of games like these days they definitely think when it comes to like content creators, and is this something that an audience would enjoy, and it's something that we definitely think about as well. So yeah.
No, yeah, that's cool. And I'm glad it's a conscious decision. I think that's always the best thing. Um, the I'm just pivoting again to what I tried to write notes down, but I realised my pen kind of stopped working. So I'm relying on the old brain. Um, you mentioned about building a deck of tricks in the kind of cards. Do I have to find those cards always, or can I trade them with friends? Can I buy the cards? How's the cards going to work like that?
all of the above. We actually put out a Medium article recently that explains all of that, and so if you want to read a little bit deeper into it, but I'll try and explain it. I'm also not the full transparency, not the game designer, and also not the dev lead. So this is my understanding of how it will all work, and we reserve the right to change everything. But basically, the way that I understand it is you will earn them throughout the game based off of gameplay. So once you hit certain accomplishments or you go on certain quests, and you can acquire them. They can also be acquired in loot boxes, which will be purchasable or also be part of airdrops via our staking system. And then eventually we will also be selling them as packs of cards. And so then you can enter them into the secondary market. You can trade them with your friends. You can sell them, and then you can also upgrade your tricks. So there'll be levels to each trick. So like level 1 to level 10 of a kickflip or something along those lines. And so there'll be kind of an upgrade system as well. So that's the way that I currently understand the system to function, and that's what they're developing. Golden, what's going on?
Hey, so what I wanted to know is because you started speaking on loot boxes. Is there a specific drop rate, or are you going to look at some? Because loot boxes, like that's like a how can I say like there's a black mark on you loot boxes, and so I was just wondering what's the drop rate going to be on them, like rarity and stuff like that, or have you not worked that out yet?
I do not know personally, but I'm sure that there will be an in-depth explanation of that once all of the game design has been strategized, and they work with our tokenomics expert Jay. who has helped assist in like building our internal economy of all of our gear and our tokens, and I'm sure that he will be a big part of making sure that we build a system that is not broken. And also, we want to make a game that is not pay to win. So making sure that there are certain aspects of this game that are not tradable or saleable. And there will also be aspects of our game that are purely Web 2 and not Web 3 integrated. That will be only in game. I currently don't can't speak to which elements those will be, but I know that is a key consideration.
I just pinned the tweet on the Medium article. I found it. If that helps.
You were doing better than I was. I was searching through. I put medium in the search, and it wasn't bringing up stuff. Yeah, that's what I did it. Just before we go to Blockstar's hand, we've just talked on the kind of cards and how that can help. You mentioned your skateboard could have rockets, which sounds very exciting. Do I buy a skateboard that's got rockets, or do I put the rockets on the skateboard myself?
So currently, can you hear me? Am I
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're good.
Currently, the rockets are only part of one of ones within our collection, and a lot of them are being very closely diamond-handed, which respect and thank you to the folks doing that. We've got a good number of one-of-ones out there that have a couple of really cool traits, from like actual graphic holographic animations on them to rockets to wings to sonic boosters and booms. And so there's a couple of really cool components that are built onto our one of ones that will be integrated into the game. And eventually it will be unlocking upgrades that are add-ons and attachments and art upgrades, but that will probably be in the future. So
I know that sounds really cool, and it sounds like plenty of customization between that and your cards for kind of you're not just going to have one generic person the whole way through. Kind of similar to Matt's question with Blockstars, that there becomes a meta that's always the best. It sounds like you've got plenty of customization to stop that.
yeah, the tricky thing is right now, so like the way that we're constructing this, and this is something that we've really been struggling to figure out, is the way that most NFT collections are structured, and the way that they're organized in the marketplaces like Magic Eden is very limited. And so when you start to create a marketplace of all sorts of different burnables and gear and SFTs and multiple types of we've got different kind of strata of skateboards. So there'll be like our legacy collections and then our collab collections, and like all of a sudden your Magic Eden page it's very complicated. And so we're trying to figure out how to structure that, and eventually want to have our own marketplace for all of our in-game gear and all of our in-game SFTs and burnables, so that people can exchange them and it can all be localized in one place. And then there will be our avatar system that'll be highly customizable, and tricks and skateboards. And so all of a sudden it really kind of breaks the traditional structure of NFT collections and moves into building an internal economy of stuff, right? Within a metaverse. So that's what we're trying to crack right now. Also, Anna, sorry for going on a tangent, but would love to answer your question.
I just think that our listeners need to understand the value of buying, because you've had various mints. So like I have a longboard. I bought a longboard because I found one that had the peace sign and that really just resonated with me. So I purchased it, and now I want to know, for not just for as a reminder for me, but like the long there can you just go through the mints with me again, Brian?
Yeah, 1000%. So
I love you. Thank you.
our first mint was the Founders Collection, and that was 1080 boards, and then the people that purchased that received an airdrop of the Founders shoe, which will give you access to a Founders Lounge that will have custom quests and gear access and unlockables and just a custom game experience that is token gated to having those shoes. And so that was the kind of the inherent value of founders. And then founders also get certain staking benefits ongoing. So they will always get a premium staking experience in comparison. Then we've got our Coast to Coast collection, which was our second mint. And that introduced longboards into our ecosystem and also introduced our first artist collab with Hydra74, who is a great friend of ours and is a wicked talented guy. Definitely go follow him. And so if you got one of his longboards, then we airdropped you a matching standard board so that you could do tricks with that as well. And so that was the holder's benefit to getting that and what drove value in that collection. And so longboards eventually, will be used for a different type of gameplay, right? Like longboards aren't used for tricks. And so they're more used for racing or skate dancing, or there's just a different way of using them. And so we'll be introducing that into our gameplay, and then standard boards will be used for the tricks experience. And then we're also introducing speed boards, some retro shaped boards, penny boards, and egg boards into our economy. That's something that we haven't announced, so I just said all that. Now you know. And so there will be a whole bunch of different shapes of boards out, and those are coming. I don't even know if I should have said that, but whoops.
Yeah, we love that sort of stuff. See, Anna tricks you into these things. She kind of warms you up with simple questions, and then boom, gets it out. Going on to that, Anna kept mentioning loads of D's. Have we done the D's? Have I missed the D? What's the D's?
We love the D. Yeah, I mean, we it's hilarious because we realized that so many of the partnerships that we were working on and so many of the things internally that we were working on, they all started with a D. So then the whole thing just turned into a giant dick joke. And we just ran with it because the engagement was good. And so at first we started with the 3Ds. And we launched our first one this past Friday, where we did a collab with D Gods, where we worked with the Mickey's D God and the D Apes D God sub DAOs, and so they were able to buy a board, burn it, and then we will customize their board for them and put their D God on the board, which is our very first true collab where we are offering like a bespoke customization service. And it was a great learning experience for us, and also a great marketing opportunity for us, a great visibility moment for us. And Frank followed us and liked the custom board that we made for him, came to our spaces, and we're very appreciative for them. And Grant, our partnerships lead, is really embedded in their community and is a multi DGOD holder. So he facilitated all of that, and it was just one of those moments where it was like, all right, this is a great collaboration, we should absolutely do this. And it was a great test for us. We had to do it a little scuffed, right? Like we're honestly, where we're doing it through a Google form submission, and we're hand making all of these, and it's trying to see what the appeal for it is, and how much traction it drives, and whether or not this is something worth investing in at scale to automate, so that we can do this moving forward. We've talked about doing a mint of blank boards, right, where people can put their PFP or their own art on it. Now, the problem with that is that that is an enormous undertaking for us to offer that bespoke service. And so, we're trying to ensure that when we offer that it's sustainable for our internal team, because it takes art and dev resources to be able to do things like that, and also introduces the complication of introducing unique files from outside of our ecosystem into the JSONs and into the metadata of all of our NFTs. So there's a lot of complication in building a system like that, but we're really trying to figure it out because it seems like there's a lot of appeal to it, and every time that we talk about it, it gets everybody really excited. So we're like, well, yeah, we're glad that you're excited. How the fuck do we scale this? You know?
I pinned the video of the D Gods board, and it looks amazing in that. Like,
Thank you.
really good. I
So
do.
that was the that was
Go on.
first D, right? And then we've got two more Ds that are coming down the pipe. Wow, it all just sounds so filthy. One of them, you know, we've been trying not to talk about too publicly just because it is deep in legal review and ensuring that everything is, you know, gonna move move forward appropriately and legally, and it's very businessy. So just trying to be very careful with not talking about it. You can find it; it's out there, right? Like it's one of the D's, right? So if you look hard enough, you'll know what I'm talking about. But you know, we've been advised, and we've been advising our partners in this also equally to diminish, you know, how much we're talking about it until it's all official, because we want to make sure that it all moves forward appropriately. And then the third D, well, there's actually two more Ds on top of that. So there's really three more Ds, right, Mateo? You know, obviously we're working on a demo. Want to get that out into the world. That you know, we're working on it. That's all I can say is we're working on it. I can't promise a date on it. I think the thing is, I think that people really underestimate the amount of time that it takes to make a good game. I really do. And we've only really been building for like 6 months, and the traditional game dev cycle is 12 to 18 months or longer. And you know, that's if there are no hiccups and bumps in the road. And I'm just going to be really transparent that there's been some bumps in the road, and we're figuring them out, and we're continuing to push to deliver. So can't commit to when that's going to happen, but that is a D. And then, you know, I think it's pretty visible that we're friends with the people over at Dino Dogs. Um, and we've been talking about how we can do something with them. They're just such nice people, and they've been great friends to us. And it's something we want to do. And what that is has not been fully committed to yet, but it's something. And I'm just really excited to continue to build that friendship and continue to collaborate with other builders in the space that are just like wicked talented and grinding and doing it the right way. And they're just really nice fucking guys. So that's it. That was way more alpha than I've ever given to anybody in my entire life. So there you go.
So the moral of the story is it's D's all the way down. I do think that if you sell blank boards for any pitches, you will get a lot of penis boards. It would
Oh
just
yeah.
happen.
Well, so like we introduced spray paint cans into our ecosystem as SFTs. And one of the things that I told our team, I was like, if you make this so that people can spray paint whatever they want in our game, there will be dicks and there will be swastikas. And we're going to have some sort of filter in our system that filters out dicks and swastikas, right? Like, just can't have that everywhere.
That just reminds me. I don't know if anyone watched. Oh, it's just fallen out of my head as I was going to say it. The TV show. They're building the startup Robin Hood. Oh, what they do, they got in the incubator, someone's building an app for saying what food different bits of food are, and it's only really good at saying something whether something's a hot dog or not. So it ends
Oh,
up
that's
becoming
funny.
a penis catcher app. And that's exactly what it sounds like you would need if people are
Yeah.
allowed to submit their own drawings, because that is all you'll get.
Yeah.
I realised I didn't ask a very important question. What am I playing this game on?
Oof, that is a great question. So, all right, here we go. Um, initially, this game was being built on WebGL so that you would play it on your browser. That makes for what, everybody? A shitty game. It just had so many limitations, and for a full 3D metaverse with lots of tricks and animations and an avatar builder and loading all of your skateboards and all this stuff. Like all of a sudden, the engineers were like, can't do that, can't do that, can't do that. Oh, got to strip all those textures off. And all of a sudden, we were looking at a game that did not look like a game that was built in 2022 or 2023, right? I was like, oh God, like it's WebGL is just not going to do it, right? Like it's just not going to let us build. So we are now moving to a downloadable client build. And that will allow us to build the game that we always intended to make, that is at the aesthetic quality that we are looking to build it at. We are also building with mobile in mind. So currently, right, the way that the mobile ecosystem functions, they don't really support a lot of in-game NFT minting or wallet connection is a tricky thing within the ecosystem. iOS just, their marketplace, the App Store is just not super friendly to it yet, and they're trying to take 30% revenue fees. So we're really trying to figure out how to make this mobile friendly. But for the time being, it's going to be a desktop game that is on a downloadable client. I would love for this to eventually be cross-platform, for this to be able to be played on a variety of consoles and mobile and your desktop, but the infrastructure and the tech isn't quite there yet to support wallet connection, and the fees complicate everything, and we're navigating it. We have friends over at Apple. We're really trying to navigate the system and figure out what works best for us. But we want to focus on actually getting like a solid core game on desktop first. So that's where you'll be living.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. And have you been looking in? 'Cause we talked to one on Anna's earlier space, and then talked to a few throughout different spaces. Have you been looking at any of the We're Steam of Web3 at all for that launcher, rather than having people download random zip files
Like Elixir?
like Elixir? Yeah.
Yeah, we've been looking at Elixir. I think I saw one of our founders talk about it the other day. Yeah, but I've known about it for a while, and yeah, that could be an option. But I think we actually, I correct me if I'm wrong, Brian. We're building like our own, like kind of like launcher, so it wouldn't be like an actual, zip file, type thing. Like yeah, but yeah, no, I think that would be that's definitely something that we have to look into, right? Because it might make sense, right, to partner with like the Steam of Web3, if that's gonna be Elixir, and that would be like a place where like a lot more games live under. So yeah, that could be a pretty interesting option for us as well. I think Brian, but yeah, we definitely have looked into it.
You could put it on the Google Store and just do everything on Android if you're gonna go mobile.
Yeah, I think I'm not part of the engineering team, so I know that mobile has been deprioritized right now as we're building the game, but we're building so that it will be able to transition into mobile. So, but yes,
Well,
I know that.
what engine are you building in? You
It's
know
all
that
in
much?
Unity.
Unity? You can build anywhere with Unity. Like once you build it, it works. Like so you could go on Android. Amazon also has a great one too. Um, Prime. You could actually play video games from the Fire Stick. Put that to your development team as well. That's another place you can actually launch your game at.
Yeah, I think it's all on the table right now, honestly.
No, that sounds really good. And I always like when Golden throws in little bits like that. Because Golden loves that Android Fire Stick. Comes up often, but it makes sense. I get why you mention it. I do. I'm running out of questions. I think we've heard loads, and it does sound really exciting. I do sometimes have a habit of minting stuff while we're talking, but
you're a little bit out of my price range right now. Maybe when I get big and famous, because some of them I have been browsing, which is always just as dangerous, and they do look really cool. But so far, my Phantom wallet is on zero because I don't use it a great deal, so that's saving me right now. But no, it's been really good hearing. I don't know if there's any final questions from anyone who's up on stage. Okay. Turns out I kind of did Star Heroes dirty and never actually sent them a link. I just thought I had, and thought that they would have seen me tagging them in it, because I don't think I sent you guys links either, did I? Maybe I wasn't very good at my admin this time.
I just spent too much time on Twitter and I saw it.
I think this is part of the thing that, like, Anna's just everywhere, so we're always going to know. And then, yeah, so I kind of did them dirty. I had a little funny line, and Star Heroes is a game, is what I was going to say, until he's messaged saying, yeah, when is it? Can you send me the invite? So that's on me. That's my bad. So they will be coming back again at another week when I remember to actually invite them. But it's kind of good they weren't here because we've already gone to our full time, so they wouldn't have had much time to speak. Remember, everyone, that it's been recorded. I'll send it out so you'll be able to listen back if you've missed any of the bits. We'll do it with timestamps so people can jump to the projects if they want to, but then they'll miss out on hearing from both of you because it has been really good hearing from you. Thanks for everyone in the audience for coming and spending the time with us. It means a lot that you're here. Personally, I would talk to anyone, just even if it was just me and them, but I think it adds so much more for what they're building, and it gives so much more back to the community to be able to kind of have everyone listening in, and especially for those people in tune in. I don't know how many people do listen in the audience, how many people listen to recordings, but I found that on my stats, probably twice to three times as many people listen to the recording than listen live. And I think that's kind of testament to, we were doing culture in Professor Anna's space earlier today. And I think the fact that it's so worldwide for Web3, like time zones, is a nightmare. It's absolute witchcraft. I don't get it. But it does show how worldwide all of this really is. So hello to all our people in other countries who are listening on a recording. We will be back next week with some new projects. I think I've actually got the full list, so I'll be publishing that. I think we're seeing Bornless, Born to Die, and Gyrus. A couple of other people, only one of them actually, that I picked up from Anna's Megaspace, but that's where I found you guys in SkateX as well. That Megaspace was brilliant, and I do hope we do it again. I will definitely be taking a day off next time though, because when I was trying to work at the same time as doing the full 15 hours, which did not go well. Did not go well for work. It went well for the space. But no, it's been great talking to everyone. Thanks everyone for coming by. Self-shill. Remember, I've got that giveaway for anyone who's interested in that sort of stuff. Hopefully I get into a nice project. I don't think my $50 prize is going to get me into SkateX, but I might be able to get a band from Blockstars. Who knows? We will have to see what the winner wants to join. But thanks, everyone. Any final words from anyone on stage before I close us out?
Thank you for having us. Very much appreciate it.
Yeah,
you're welcome.
absolutely, Gaspod. You're amazing. We're so lucky to have you in this ecosystem, and thank you for everything you do. And you
Thank
can
you.
call me Doctor. Wink, wink.
Okay, Dr. Wink Wink. Thank you for coming.
Much love, Gaspod. Thanks so much for doing this. Really appreciate you.
No, it's been great, and I'll definitely keep an eye on it. Like, even if it's just to marvel over the art, because the D-gods on the boards look so cool. I just hope you don't end up with a collection of penis boards. But no, it's been really good talk.
We should. Maybe we should have penis boards.
Just embrace it, yeah. But no, thanks everyone, and remember to look for games that you enjoy. Cheers.